Can you give me something that the president did to indicate that he has mental issues?
Those include impulsivity, like tweeting out policies without consulting anybody. That's an example of impulsivity. He's often
But
reckless.
if he didn't tweet out, we wouldn't know the truth because the media lie to the people. And so is it mental illness to tweet out the truth?
It's tweeting out simply what the first thing that comes to one's mind is actually more on the impulsive side.
So all the young people are mentally ill then, right? Because they live on Twitter. You're a forensic psychiatrist. Why haven't you examined those people? They were very public. They've been yelling and screaming for 3 years. They've been proven to be liars. Why haven't you noticed them? They lied and said the president colluded with Russia, and they screamed and yelled and carried on. They spent thousands of millions of dollars on the so-called investigation. They found out that nothing happened, and they won't admit that they're wrong. They won't apologize. Are they, Mueller and others, are they mentally ill?
So my concern is I have not examined any of them, and I do not have enough information on any of them.
You now have men taking off their male body parts and attaching women body parts and putting on dresses and acting like women. And you have women taking off women body parts and putting on men body parts and wearing men clothes and acting like men. Is that due to mental illness as well?
Well, that's somewhat a cultural phenomenon.
So is that cultural phenomenon happening due to mental illness?
I wouldn't call it a mental illness.
You remember Barack Obama, the black guy that was the president? When he used Twitter in order to help win the election and lied to the people, did that indicate that Obama was mentally ill as well? The media lied to the people, especially liberal media, day after day after day. Are they doing that because they are mentally ill? To be so successful at making the country great again in the last 3 years, is that a sign of mentally illness?
I'm not sure what you're referring to as success.
He cut back on taxes. More people are working now. We are safer. He cut back on restrictions. He's getting black people out of prisons. We are safer from the enemy around the world. Is that a sign, that type of success, is that a sign of mental illness? And some of these children can now pop out in the 9th month and let the baby die. Even Obama wanted the baby to die on the medical table without doing a botched abortion. Without any medical care. Is that due to mental illness that they're willing to kill children in the womb? And even after the baby is born, is that due to mental illness?
It could be. It may not be.
Since 1973, 60 million babies have been killed inside the womb. And you're not concerned about that as a Christian?
I'm actually concerned about people who die every single day, whose deaths could be prevented.
How about the unborn, the president? Are you saying that he's mentally ill for making society better, but the men and women who are taking off their body parts and pretending to be the opposite sex are not mentally ill? Transgender is not mental illness?
Again, I'm not going to comment on people who are having transgender operations because I have not examined them. I have not.
But you haven't examined the president either.
Now, there was this other time where I had tachycardia, and I'm pretty sure I've had tachycardia many times, but this was one time that I was in a hospital, which ironically was one of the last hospitals that I worked in. I wasn't working there at the time. It was because the last hospital I was working I was actually there, admitted, but it was many years ago when it actually happened, around the time of my father, which was like around 2010. And what happened was with that story is I was with a friend, and it was like, I think it was for a birthday celebration. It was just me and this chick. We were gonna hang out. We had a hotel, and I got a random friend. I reached out to a random friend. The random friend gave us 2 pills, and for a good time or whatever, right? And one of the things I learned back in 2010 when I was into that whole phase and all that stuff, and I'm only telling this because I know this stuff can be used against me, but I think it's like it's just such an issue that we need to kind of talk about this. You know, you get shunned, you got people using it against you. One of the smartest things that I did back then was buy a testing kit. You know, because when you're taking X, okay, there's a lot of fake substances out there. Most people, I can say, especially here in South Florida, have never experienced actual X. They've gotten some sort of meth, something mixed with whatever. They haven't gotten the real stuff. And most people don't have a testing kit. Back then, I was rolling with some friends. I did a lot of research. I had my testing kit. And you can tell at least whether it's real or fake. But at that time when I was with this chick, this was in the very beginning of when I started to get into all the craziness that I was getting to. So at the time I didn't have a testing kit. But we took the pill, and we were hanging out, whatever, out of nowhere. And this is I'm gonna tell you why I think it was a panic attack. Out of nowhere, I just my heart started racing, and this is why I say to, if you're, especially with that person that asked me about mushrooms, and if you're taking stuff, you want to be in a controlled environment. You want to be with people you can trust, and you don't want to just get any random thing off the street, off a person you don't know. One of the biggest rules too is never go to a party and just start buying stuff off of people, because a lot of times it's going to be fake, because they know that they're never going to see you again. But my heart started racing. And for some reason, something told me that I got to get out of there. So we left, and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital. And I was afraid to react on that, because part of me was like, maybe I'm overreacting. But the other part of me was like, it's getting worse. My heart was just... And at that time, too, I still hadn't overcome panic attacks. I was just dealing with panic attacks. And to be honest, to keep it real, the panic attack started after my father committed suicide, but I can't put that on him. I think it was a symptom of all the things that I was doing, because before that I had never had panic attacks, and I always looked down on people that took substances before then. And this was when I was 25. I'm 34 now. Before then, I looked down on those kind of people, you know, like, oh, they're trash, and oh, whatever, you can't. I used to look down on those people, you know, and then I started experimenting in that. So we left, and we started going to the nearest hospital, which is the hospital that I used to work in previously. And I think the chick was driving, because I couldn't even drive. I was so freaked out, and I was trying to GPS. I literally, in my mind, this is when my panic attacks were so bad, I thought I was going to die at any moment. Like, my heart was beating so hard, so fast, I thought I was going to die. So we finally get to this hospital, right? We get into the ER. And let me just say, this hospital is a horrible hospital. Thank you for the opportunity that I was there. But many people know, if you have an urgent situation, this is not the hospital you want to go to. There's other better hospitals. You pretty much, in my opinion, you go there to die. It's probably, I think it's gotten a little bit better now, but there's a lot of corruption in that hospital too. I'm not going to get into it, but it just, on a systemic level, CEOs in and out, all this kind of stuff. You wouldn't believe some of the things that I've seen. But so I get there, and I tell them about my situation. And here's a thing too. This is the first time I've ever experienced that people look at you differently when you tell them you took a pill. I told them I took an unknown pill. It was supposed to be X, but I told them I took an unknown, I didn't know what it was. I told them the truth, because at that point too, when you're in that kind of situation, when you're in a hospital or something like that, or let's say you're in an ambulance, you want to tell them the truth, because it could really mean, be the difference between life and death. Like if you're on an opiate or something like that, they can use Narcan and potentially save your life. But I told them I took a random pill, whatever. They told me to sit down. I sat down, and the whole time, like, my panic attack, my heart would not let up. I'm feeling like sensations throughout my body, but mostly in my left arm. The problem is too with panic attacks, when you start Googling and you start looking up things, and it tells you the symptoms of a heart attack, then you start like thinking and oh, is it possible to get a heart attack with a panic attack? And then you start looking up all these videos of how to overcome panic attacks, and some of those places want you to pay, and it is a craziness that I've experienced several times. It's a horrible feeling. And most of the time when I was going through it, I didn't want to tell people I was going through it. I'm the type of person that I could be freaking out sitting right next to you and just be sitting there. But inside, I'm dying, like freaking out. So it took them a really long time to even see me. I was so pissed. I was really upset. They finally see me. I did like a urine test. I did a blood test. And according to them, nothing came back positive. No drugs, nothing. So, and the person that took the other pill with me, she said she wasn't feeling anything. So either the pills were bunk, like they were fake stuff. Maybe I caught, because sometimes you gotta think too, these people are, here's the danger with these pills, man. You gotta be really careful. I mean, I'll make another video on this, but people are making these pills themselves. They buy a little press machine. There's no, it's not like it's in a controlled environment. People are making this stuff, putting themselves together. So who knows if, the powder or the ratio, or if one pill has more than another, or if they're completely nothing in there. You have no idea, and that's another thing that can bring on an anxiety and panic. If you have no idea what you're taking, you're just taking it. So they did the test, and then if I finally get into a room, they hook me up to the monitor, and I don't remember. I wish I could remember my heart rate. I don't remember my heart rate. But they told me I had tachycardia. I looked up. I could see my heart just fast. I was freaking out. I honestly thought I was going to die. I was looking at this person, and I was like thinking like, yo, I think this is going to be it. Because like, I think they didn't take me as serious at first. But then once they hooked me up to the monitor and they saw my heart, they told me tachycardia. They gave me Ativan, IV. And I don't know if it was 1 milligram or 2 milligrams, but they gave me the Ativan. Ativan's a really thick substance. I've made a bunch of IVs like that. It's a really thick substance. It's a benzodiazepine. I don't think it's as strong as Klonopin.
I had taken Lorazepam for about 1.5 years when I was 20 to help with sleeping and hadn't had an issue getting off of it. Didn't realize clonazepam is an entirely different monster.
But they gave it to me IV. When you take a medication IV, I don't have, the only IV experience I've ever had is saline. When I've gotten saline in the hospital, and the only other IV was that time where they gave me Ativan IV. Now, it worked like almost instantly. And let me tell you the effects of Ativan, Lorazepam, Xanny bars, whatever you want to call it. And the thing is with IV2, you feel like the full effects, because with tablets, capsules, pills, whatever, there's a whole thing called bioavailability. So certain medications have different bioavailabilities. So when you take it, only a certain percentage of it is actually absorbed into your body. Then you have things like half-life and all this kind of stuff, which I can't even think about it right now. But when I got the Ativan dose, I felt calm, relaxed, everything calmed down. My heart rate was still going fast for a little bit, but it slowly started to calm down. And here's the weird thing, the freaky thing about it, and this is what makes me think about these medications sometimes, that I was okay with dying. This is the weirdest. I've never experienced that in my life. I had this like peace come over me where I was just calmed down, and I told this person like, I'm okay, whatever happens, and I was okay. Now, in that situation, it really helped me out, because with what I was going through, and it was a controlled environment, and my heart and everything went back to normal, I was fine. But just think about somebody that takes that kind of medication all the time on a daily basis, when they're okay with, if they're okay with dying, or their feelings and everything gets numbed. It's very dangerous. So that was my experience with Ativan. And I've tried the pills, I think once or twice. And I guess it had almost the same. The thing with that is like I've never been a prolonged user, so to me, like, you really didn't feel anything. You just felt kind of more relaxed. It's one of those medications too that's very dangerous with alcohol, because you can black out on it. Black out, wake up, you don't know where you're at. Very dangerous. So I'm glad I never got that far into things like that. But I've heard horror stories. I've heard of people getting violent. Another thing too that's really dangerous that is Ambien. Ambien is crazy, because I've taken it. Like, a friend gave it to me. I've taken it maybe 2-3 times, and it was just to go to sleep. Because I was turned up and I couldn't sleep, so you take that, you go to sleep, and I had no problems with it. But I've seen other people personally take that stuff, start drinking, and then not go to sleep. I don't know how you could stay awake on it. I don't know how you force yourself, but people would forcibly stay awake, and you will see a completely different person jumping on cars, doing all kinds of craziness, and then the next day not remember anything.
I see potential subscribers.